Hi everyone, Ashley here for the Penguin Palace Stamps YouTube channel, and today I'm super excited to share with you this card I made using a lot of Penguin Palace Stamps supplies, including their Get Well Soon stamp set and their Rain of Hearts stencil. So without further ado, let's get into it. Like I said, I used a bunch of Penguin Palace Stamps supplies today, which are just very adorable. First, we've got the Get Well Soon stamp set, and this features two mermaids. One is sick and one is healthy. And so it seems like the healthy one is kind of wishing the sick one to get well soon. And this comes with coordinating dies as well. And then I've got the Rain of Hearts stencil, which as you can see is just a beautiful geometric stencil showing little heart shapes in the openings. So you'll be able to stencil through and see those hearts. I decided I wanted to use this stencil with some alcohol ink, and then stencil through with alcohol lift ink, which you'll see later in the video kind of lifts up the alcohol ink and generates the pattern. So I'm starting by just dabbing on some alcohol blending solution with my paintbrush, and this is almost just like clear plain alcohol or rubbing alcohol. And you can probably see up in the top right corner of the video, I actually use just plain rubbing alcohol that you can buy at your local pharmacy as the sort of blending solution for my alcohol ink crafting. So it's very economical, it's super cheap to buy, and it's a good way to sort of stock up on your alcohol blending solution without having to break the bank. I'm also then using a variety of blue alcohol inks. The first one I used was the pearl color, which is actually a shiny one, and then I used just a few other tones of blue, and now as you can see the silver mixative. And I sort of just mix them all together with some alcohol blending solution or just plain rubbing alcohol, and then kind of dab them around with my paintbrush. I'm also using a paper towel to sort of dab up the excess ink, and at the end of the day, kind of going back and forth between color and blending solution and paper towel, this is the effect you get with all the colors nicely blended together, and I really think the effect looks a lot like water, which is exactly what I was going for with these mermaids, so I really liked that. The next step in this card is to stamp out the images from the stamp set. So I'm stamping out the mermaid, actually both the mermaids, the little heart bubbles. So these are like little water bubbles that look like hearts, which are very cute, and then a little rose that comes in the set as well. So I'm going to have the healthy mermaid holding the rose as if she's giving it to the sick mermaid as a little present. So I'm stamping these images onto some Nina Solar White paper in black ink, and this is black Copic friendly ink because that's the type of marker I'm going to be using to color in these images. And I'm using my Misty stamping tool to stamp these out, but you really don't have to. If you don't have this Misty stamping tool, just stamp them your regular way and it will be just fine. I do like the Misty because it allows you to double stamp things if you make mistakes. So now I'm just coloring in the little mermaids and the other little images with my Copic markers. And I'm just speeding this part of the video up because the coloring does take a while, but you can see it just as well in the sped up version. For the first mermaid, I decided that I wanted her hair to be this nice brown color, so I used 3 different shades of brown, a dark, a medium, and a light, to color in her hair. And these images are actually really good for practicing your hair coloring, if that's something that you're interested in. I'm actually not very good at coloring hair, I don't have a lot of experience with it, so I love images like this that kind of allow me to practice and get my feet wet a little bit. So how I decided to go about it was to have the darkest color sort of at the parts where I thought there would be the most shadow, so largely that was behind the mermaid and kind of shadowed by her body, or sort of underneath some of the wisps of hair. And then I blended it out with my medium color, and then finally I used my lightest color almost just like a highlight in the areas that I thought would be really the lightest color. But I tried to focus mostly on the dark and the medium shades. And I did the same technique with the second mermaid, so for her I used a little bit more reddish tones, so the darkest color is like a dark browny red, and I blended it out with, again, a medium and a light tone, having the darkest marker applied only in the parts where I thought there would be the most shadow. I then colored in their skin in much the same way. I used slightly darker shades for the first mermaid and slightly lighter shades for the second mermaid. And for both of them, I just used the darker tone as part of the shadow and then blended it out with a lighter tone in areas where I thought there would be more light hitting them. Then it was the fun part coloring in their tails. So for one mermaid, I used green tones to color in her tail and then yellow to color in her top. And for the second mermaid, I used blue-green tones, like turquoise color to color in the tail, and then purple to color in the top. And that one was definitely giving me some Ariel from the Little Mermaid vibes, which I thought was really cute. And these areas of the images are very small, so you don't have to worry about blending too much, which is nice. It's enough to just add a dark and a light and kind of blend them together and you're done. I added some little rosy cheeks with the R20 pink marker, and then finally colored in the little bubbles and the little rose with some blues and reds. Okay, now that the background has had time to dry, it's time to come back and apply the alcohol lift ink with the pattern. So I'm taking my background and then the Rain of Hearts stencil and just lining them up against each other. So I'd actually turned that stencil over so it's upside down, and now I can tape my paper right onto it, because this will be the back of the paper that I'm adding the tape to. So you won't see it, it won't block the pattern or anything. It's sort of just going to be behind everything. So I'm taking my time to really line it up and then just taping it down on all sides using my purple tape, which is a nice like sticky but not too sticky kind of tape. So then you turn the whole thing over and there is your paper with the surface that you want the pattern to be on, facing up towards you, and the tape is behind. So I'm using this alcohol lift ink, which is sold by Ranger, and all it is, I think, is just an ink pad with some plain alcohol in it, almost like rubbing alcohol. And I'm using a foam blending tool that you can also purchase separately from the alcohol inks, but are sort of meant to go with them. And that foam is picking up the alcohol from the lifting pad, and then I'm using that to sort of dab on through the stencil onto the background. So I'm just going back and forth, dabbing onto the ink pad and then dabbing onto the stencil, and as you can see, the blue ink that the foam is picking up from the background is then being reapplied onto the ink pad. But that's okay, I think that won't really make a difference because the plain alcohol is still a lot stronger in that ink pad, so it's not a big deal that it got a little bit smudged. And then when you remove the stencil, you can see that the alcohol lift ink actually lifted up the alcohol from the background in the pattern of the hearts, which is just really, really beautiful. So it's almost like a very subtle effect. So now it's time to put the card together. I have a very light pool colored background to act as the base of the card, and then a piece of fun foam, which is 3D, so it's a little bit elevated and it will provide a bit of dimension to the card. I'm using my double-sided tape to apply onto the fun foam and on both sides of it so that I can put the fun foam onto the card base and then the card front on as well. And I'm just making sure that it's all centered up and you get to see that outline of the blue card base all the way around the card front, which I thought was really pretty because it kind of matches along with the water theme. So once that's all put together, it's time to assemble the rest of the card. Off camera, I went ahead and stamped out the sentiment from the same stamp set. It's the little sentiment that says "Get Well Soon" in a really pretty script font. And I just cut little banner edges onto the piece of paper that I stamped it on to make it look like a little banner. I'm using some liquid glue to glue the rose into the hand of the healthy mermaid so that it kind of looks like she's giving it as a present to the sick one to make her feel better. And then I'm just using some foam squares on the back of all of the stamped elements that I want to put on the front of the card to then adhere them to the card. I really like these little bubbles. They've made them in the shapes of hearts, so it looks like the mermaids are breathing little bubbles of hearts into the water to each other, which I thought was very cute. And then I just put that sick mermaid up in the top left corner of the card. I decided to finish the card off with a few little finishing touches. I'm putting some iridescent gems in a variety of places along the front of the card in kind of just a scattered formation to almost look like they're just scattered there haphazardly. So I'm using my tweezers to place them, and then some Tim Holtz Multi-Medium Matte, which is just a really nice liquid glue with a very thin nozzle, which actually the thin nozzle I added myself. You can buy these bottles with thin nozzles, and it allows you to really precisely add glue into tiny little places, which is really nice. I'm then putting some glossy accents onto the sections that I wanted to be shiny and almost three-dimensional, so the bubbles and the mermaid's tails. And that is the card for today. I hope that you guys enjoyed watching this video. I really like how this card came together. I love the shininess of the background, and I love how subtle the effect that you get is from the alcohol lifting with that beautiful heart stencil. And I love how the heart stencil really plays into the theme of Get Well Soon, because it's like the mermaids are giving hearts to each other, which is really sweet. So thanks again for watching. I hope that this video inspired you to use these fun supplies in your own crafting. And to see more, please feel free to go visit the Penguin Palace Stamps Instagram page. Thanks for watching. Bye!